I'm on a summer kick. You could say I'm on a roll.
Hello everyone and welcome. We're here in the beautiful Hangzhou Arena preparing for the first match of Week 1, Day 2 here in the LPL. It's going to be LGD versus Victory 5. Now, of course, just the second day of the summer split here in 2019. So both of these teams looking to have a better summer split than their spring split. Both of them finished bottom 5. Not exactly the results you're looking for, but there were some promising results at the end of the split there for LGD, and everyone is just loving it here in the arena. Some beautiful outfits in Victory 5. You're not going to recognize a lot of these faces because a lot of them are brand new, up from their LDL team, looking to prove themselves today. Aliez in the top lane as well. You have both supports been replaced. You have a new support. You've got a new mid laner. Everyone just looking to bring back a little bit of normalcy, bring back their chances here in the LPL. And of course, on the other side, LGD, you know them well. You've seen all of their faces before. But today, they're looking to continue their win streak at the end of the season because they had one of the best ends of the split we've seen. And of course, you see Yuuki on your screen now, their new solo mid laner. But we were looking for the man of the hour, Kramer. We'll talk a little bit about him later. In the meantime, my name is Matt Niberia Daniel, joined by the wonderful, the host, the interviewer, the translator. He does it all. Clement Chu is here. How are you feeling, man? I'm so excited to be back on the desk with you.
I'm feeling great. There's nowhere you want to be but in the LPL right now. And thanks for that raise pitch. I hope our bosses heard that one as well. And I just can't wait to see LGD, which is probably the most popular team in the LPL, get to compete today. Every stadium you go, every match there is, there's always those LGD chants, LGT chants. They're such a fun team to watch. You never know what to expect from them.
See, that's one of my favorite things about an LGD match, because you hear the LGD chants, you're like, yes, that's exactly what that's supposed to be. Thank you, finally. But of course, let's talk a little bit about yesterday. We'll take a look at the standings, perhaps because we've just had 2 matches so far, but they were pretty interesting ones. EDG and Fun Plus Phoenix at the top of the board now, having 1 victory each. Let's talk first about the Edward Gaming Dominus Esports Series.
Ooh, day 1 was supposed to be about the Avengers. EDG dropped 3-0 to Sino Dragons last time around. Now Dominus Gaming is taking over Sino Dragons. Spot still the same team, just a name change, and EDG got their revenge. They have a new jungler on them, JJ, and he did not back down to Xiaopeng. Absolutely beat his face in with that Black Cleaver Olaf to take the clean 2-0.
As tall in game as he is in real life. And of course, the second series of the night was the rematch of the semifinals of the spring split, FPX versus JD Gaming. And my God, FPX really wanted that revenge last night.
There was no love lost in that series. It was a 5-game grueling series that, in all honesty, FPX should have won. And yesterday, they finally got the revenge. Also, the first Yumi to appear in the major regions. Crips found a win on that one. Very clean game. JD Gaming did not look like they could stand up, neither in the mid lane or in the bot lane.
Of course, we are going to have to talk about today's matches eventually. Clement, LGD versus Victory 5. We saw them all come on the stage in the Hangzhou Arena. But later on, we're going to have WE versus RNG there in WE's Xi'an Arena. But let's circle back to this LGD versus Victory 5 matchup.
So the first thing that we have to look of is the new changes to V5, because basically this is a completely new team. They've only retained 2 of their original roster in Ben4 and Y4. So that should be pretty easy to remember. You see the name with the 4, they used to be on the squad. But I would say their best player, Jinnu, in the top side, has now left the team and gone to EDG. In his place, they have upgraded 3 players from their academy team, 87, like you were talking about, to their main roster. Now, to be frank, V5 was a 13th place team last split around, and now that they're using players from their LDL team, we're not super, the outlook is not super bright for this team, and the expectations are quite low. I think they are going to struggle. Their LDL team was 15th out of 25 in terms of the challenger scene. So I think this is a growing team. We want to see what their actual strong points are, but if I had to guess, I would put my money on Mole. Now, Mole had a great stint in BLG. He actually replaced Athena on that lineup, and they took that year's Rogue Warriors to 5 games. They also were the Demacia Cup finalists, so they had a good run over there, and I do want to see if Ben4 and Mole can achieve the same results as Mole and Chieftain did on BLG, which is mainly playing through the mid and jungle. I think that's where their strong suit's going to lie.
And you mentioned Rogue Warriors, and I think that's a decent comparison here because Rogue Warriors also came in. Granted, it didn't show in the placements as much, but it was an all LDL squad, freshly promoted up to the LPL. None of them had ever played on the big stage before, but they showed up huge. They were able to take down teams like RNG in a 2-0, no less. So just because they haven't shown up on this stage before, it doesn't mean that they're not going to perform well. But LGD, the changes are a little bit fewer for them.
Yep. I think LGD is in a much stabler place right now. If you look at the roster, the only big things are the top lane. They have brought in Dulan. It's not Doran's. We thought it was, but it was Dulan from the Korean server, and he's been known for a very long time as a great Jace player. Unfortunately, we're not going to see him play today. He's still, sorting through the transition process, so he will not be playing today. But you can see how much the team really values this top laner because they also released Ian just to free up that import space. And then you still have Kramer on the team. He was the main person holding this team together, had great damage shares, was their main carry. So I think LGD are in a very strong position. You have to remember, they finished the split with 80% win rate in their last 5 sets. So this is a team that could really see an impact into playoffs.
And if you look at the footage from those last 5 sets as well, a lot of it is off the back of Kramer. I mean, he is absolutely insane. You just watch his performance on things like the Kai'Sa, on things like the Kog'Maw. Even here, he gets a solo kill on a support, Clement.
It's absolutely insane because Kramer has the most solo kills of any AD carry at 8. A lot of times, PYL leaves his lane. They're a skirmish-oriented team, but he can still hold his own while his support isn't there. And in this team fight, you can see the Kog'Maw being selected. LGD rely a lot on his consistent damage output, so they put him on hyper carries a lot. He's the most prolific Kai'Sa player in the entirety of the LPL, and I don't think that's going to change. However, LGD, they also have some other weapons. Yuuki is now in sole possession of the starting position in mid laner, and this is a guy that LGD themselves said was supposed to be their franchise player going forward. He's a great assassin player. We've seen a lot on his Aurelia, on his Talon in the past. So with Condi and Yuuki, I feel like they could reach new heights.
Of course, the rest of the roster lies in the top lane, Condi in the jungle, Yuuki in the mid lane, Kramer on AD carry, and RD coming in today on the support position. It will not be PYL.
And today we're seeing in the Allied Arena right here, we do have a short opening for the LGD players, but it looks like that introduction has already passed right there. I don't expect this is going to be their final roster so far. I still think they're going to be making changes. Lies, for me, was one of the best Kennen players we had in the LPL. 85% win rate with most of their team's wins, actually, but was a bit lacking in the other departments. So I do expect Dulan to be their main starting top laner in the future. I think that's what the makes sense in terms of their moves so far. So I think this is a team in progress, but it should be very, very exciting. And I just want to share a little bit of a tidbit with you. The Chinese community has dubbed LGD the most dangerous team in the world when it doesn't matter. So after they were eliminated, they started out the season in their first 11 series. They only managed to win 1 series, and that was against Invictus Gaming. And then when they were eliminated from playoff contention, they managed to win 4 out of their last 5. And this is not the first split they've actually done this. It was the same thing as the last split as well. So I think they're the team that they're really fun to watch. They're skirmish oriented. They can be sloppy at times, but they actually have a very good ceiling. And I think with Yuuki and Kramer still on the roster and some new additions into the top lane, Condi looking like he's stabilized, this is a team that you want to pay attention to.
Well, with that in mind, Clement, because we saw the last 5 series, and that LGD looked very different from the LGD we saw all the series preceding, except, like you said, the Invictus Gaming one, which is so bizarre. But given the fact that those last 5 series look good, do you think that's a fair baseline expectation for them this split? Where do you want to see them? Where do you expect them to end up?
I think that they'll be around the 10th to 8th place. I don't think they have enough experience to make a strong run into playoffs, a deep run into playoffs. But what I do want to see specifically is them just cut down on the number of deaths that they have. Now, they've shown us very strong laning phases from Kramer and from Yuuki. But the problem is they also have so many deaths. They have the most deaths of their respective positions in the jungle, in the mid lane, and in the support. So whatever momentum they get out of a fight, whatever momentum they get out of a laning phase, they just instantly lose it. And it's just that type of carelessness that has really held LGD down. Now, LGD, they're a team that had a lot of revamps in the spring split coming in as well, bringing on Ian, bringing on Condi. So there was this expected phase where they would need to gel together. And now in summer, I think that time is over. I think they are now standing in a very strong position to prove what they're worth, and they also switched out their logo. They actually ditched the dragon. Now, there's 2 explanations. They probably didn't think it was quite lucky for the dragon. They swapped it in 2016 after their 2015 Worlds performance. So they haven't done well against the dragon, or they could have just watched the ending of Game of Thrones and said, you know, we actually aren't fans of dragons. Yeah, we're over dragons. We ditched it. So they're coming in with a new logo with some new faces, and I think LGD, they're not only a meme. They're not a team that everyone chants because they think it's fun or they're not actually present. They're a name that I think people will start to recognize.
They've got the history, and hopefully this split they can bring the performance that comes with that comes with those fans loving them so much. But V5 have some fans of their own in the crowd, and honestly, I'm looking forward to seeing how they're going to perform, because we had this question a lot last split when it started, when we had these new teams forming. How are they going to gel? How are they going to do? But it's worth noting, a lot of these players come from the same LDL team, Team 87. So there's a chance they've already got that built-in synergy. Plus, you have Y4 and Ben4, who are incredibly good players from last split.
Yeah. I think it's definitely possible that this team is very familiar with themselves already. And I just wanted to point out that V5 in the last split was more about early game. They were about laning phase and mid-game action. However, they didn't really have the talent like teams, for instance, Invictus Gaming or Top Esports, to really push through the laning phase alone. And what ended up happening is that they then went for a lot of risky 50-50 Baron plays. That was kind of the V5 signature move, and it really wasn't that successful. The only teams that they did manage to beat were OMG, LGD, Vici, and Rogue Warrior, so they never touched any of the playoff teams that happened in the LPL. So I think it was time for a change. They've also let go of their coaching staff. Dog8 is now coaching for WE, and they brought on Han E and Suannai, which means yogurt, from their LDL teams to kind of revamp the roster. If you look at what's here, I think what we can expect is still a little bit of the same flavor. I think Mo fills a very similar role to what Korn did in the past. He's more aggressive, does like to look for those 2v2 invades into the enemy jungle, and I think that's his best performance so far in BLG. As for the rest of the roster, Y4, the way they played him, he was a lot about early aggression. Lucian and Kalista were the best junglers. Sorry, not the junglers. Were the best marksmen that he was playing. So I do expect some of the same, that they're going to be more about getting that first blood in, getting to the fight earlier. And Ben4, for me, actually showed a tremendous amount of growth. Now, this guy was on and off in the LPL, but last split, his Aatrox was something to be remembered of. His Gragas had a very high kill participation, especially securing those first bloods. So I think mid-jungle is going to be the mainstay for V5, and then they can also play towards a strong bot side as well.
Finally, we get to see Kramer, the man himself. He's finally here.
Yes.
I have been looking forward to seeing him play again ever since the end of last split, because he has been performing absolutely incredibly. I mean, Victory 5, I'm excited to see Ben Forgan. The Gragas, like you mentioned, was one of my high points of last split. I loved whenever he brought it out, but really, I just want to see the Kramer show again, man. They spoiled us at the end of spring. They're like, all right, we're out. We're going to give you something to look forward to for the next split. Here you go. Here's Kramer popping off every game. All right, we're gone. See you in a few months.
Kramer was so ridiculous last split. It was truly a joy watching him, and you had to be a fan of Kramer if you were a fan of LGD. He basically hard carried this team to relevance in the past. There was a lot of 1v4 plays where he did on the Varus. I always remember that. He even took the Baron for his team as well straight after. So I think LGD are going to come in with roughly the same strategy. The Kai'Sa should still be their priority.
Well, now we've got the first bans coming out. Victory 5 have banned out the Ryze, the Silas, the Akali, those nice flex picks, whereas LGD looking towards flex picks of their own with Aatrox, Jace, and Aurelion. Now, I have a question for you as this Neeko is being locked in. All right, it's 9.10. The cat's out of the bag, as it were, Clement. Yuumi, are we going to see her?
Ooh, I don't think Yuumi's the first pickable champion. She still has a lot of weaknesses against things like hard engage, and she's not a great weak side pick. Think about being Dove as a Yuumi. What can you actually do? Not a lot. So I don't think we're going to see that until the enemy already shows their support or show their sides. Now, I will say that this is quite interesting from V5, selecting the Neeko. And we've seen a lot of Neeko in solo queue, and she's actually caught onto the mid lane craze, bringing Glacial Augment as well, the GLP 800. Really easy to follow up with your stun. So she's a great flex pick, can go top, can go mid, and can go AD carry as well.
A lot of flexibility there. We have the Nautilus, the Olaf on top of that, but now we see the Taric locked in, and I hate to ask it, Clement, because personally I'm not a fan of the strategy, but do you think Asona is going to follow this one up?
I think they're trying to bait a ban out of V5. Now, Sona Taric is still a very viable strategy on this patch. We've seen tons of it in terms of the LDL and in terms of the Korean solo queue ladder as well. Now, the counter to this typically is very strong bot lanes, but I'm not sure Neeko's really one of those kill lanes that you're looking for, and V5 is going to play it safe by taking away the Sona.
All right, they've taken that away, and LGD focusing on some bot lane bans of their own. They've taken away the Xayah so far. Don't want to give that combo away, but do you think that's premature to ban that?
No, I don't actually think it's a premature, because they're going to have to ban first. They just want to make sure that they just want to force out the bans correctly from V5. Make sure that they have to take that Sona away from them. Now, I'm very interested in seeing what's actually going to happen in the bot lane. Now, Taric has been known for a lot of cheese. The Master E Taric even started on the LPL servers themselves. So it's not a champion that you see that often, and I think the best way for Taric to actually operate is offensively. So this is quite a curious pick. I'm not sure where it's actually going to go, but their support is RD, and RD plays the weirdest of champions. It was the only Veigar to really play, and played a lot of Fiddlesticks as well. He's very off meta, so in a sense, I'm not that surprised. Now for V5, I actually think they have a good combination to go for the Yuumi. Now, we've seen yesterday in FPX's game what Olaf and Yuumi can do. Think about an Olaf that cannot be crowd controlled, has zoomies on him to constantly buff him up, give him that speed, and find those slows. Can't land the undertows? No problem. I got you. I got you with the 80% slow from the projectiles, and I think Sivir's a great champion to do that with. I think this is going to be a Yuumi lock.
All right. Well, I'm hoping we see it, because I like seeing the cat. I love seeing new picks, but as we mentioned earlier, Kramer did lock in the Kai'Sa, his most played pick during the last split, his highlight reel champion, but you really can't pick one with him. The Ezreal as well. He's gotten triple kills around Baron. I'm just excited to see this, man. Oh. All right.
Okay, so it's just going to be the Nautilus. Now, I wanted to see the Yuumi a little bit. The Nautilus has actually been popping up in solo queue in different lanes rather than the support position, but looks like it's going to be a stock standard Nautilus support this time around, and Zoe's going to round out the composition. This time for Yuuki, now, his Azir is actually quite noted when he started playing in the first season. So this is not a champion that's he's unfamiliar with. But if we look at the compositions overall, I do think V5 has a lot of pressure in the mid and in the bot side, just like we were expecting. V5 does like to play for the early and mid game, while LGD this time, they have a very strong scaling composition. You have the Kaisa, which I expect will be going for the tier, the Azir, and also the Viktor in the top side. So a lot of kiting potential, and they do have a Celestial Blessing to come down if they get full engaged upon.
It's just the waiting game here for LGD, and we've seen them be able to play this out time and time again. You just wait, and then suddenly you've got Kramer. He's 6 items. He's tearing down the opponents, but you have so much security once you get to the late game. The problem is they need to be so careful. Like you said, Victory 5 have a ton of pressure in that bottom side, and a lot... I'm going to be looking at Condi for this one because he needs to make sure the mid and bot lane don't crack under the pressure from Victory 5.
Yeah, and he's going to have to keep that Azir safe through most of the early game. Now, that's a bit difficult. If you look at the laning phases themselves, what we should expect is for V5 to really choke down on LGD's blue buff. If you can take away that blue buff, Azir can't push out as easily. You have easy roam, and then you can take that Zoe anywhere on the map. So there's a lot of early game pressure coming in from V5, a lot of priority coming in from their lanes, and it's going to be up to LGD to counteract that. Wait for the 30 to 40 minute mark.
Are you expecting either team to look for a vertical jungle to dissuade the other jungler from going from a certain side of the map?
Well, I think the big thing is how much crowd control do you actually have to set up that vertical jungle. Level 1s are incredibly important if you want to achieve that goal. So I think LGD, they do actually have what it takes to apply crowd control. You know, if the Taric is waiting there, they could dissuade V5 from coming in. But overall, V5 still have the better level 1. They could try for that. But I think LGD actually has enough defenses to play against it as well.
We'll see what they do in the level 1 as we get here into game number 1 between Victory 5 and LGD. Week 1, game 2, starting off with a bang.
You want to hear those chants coming in from the LGD arena, and it does look like the level 1's already forming up. Actually, a good amount of chance for V5 as well. Now, Y4 previously was an LGD player. He actually took LGD and almost made them a playoff team. So we could be seeing a bit of nostalgia for former players.
Kramer going to spot out the invade here, but Victory 5 still looking to go for the aggressive early level 1.
Yep, LGD, this is a bot lane that can't really push out. So they're going to be having to look towards how they actually defend their bot lane at this point.
Well, RD looking to go for it. They might be looking to catch someone on the way back here. They're positioning really defensively here in this tri-brush, but doesn't look like anyone's going to walk that way, so they should be just heading back to lane. Blue buff not going to be contested here by Condi. It looks like he's walking towards the bottom side of the map. He might be hunting for the Olaf.
Ooh, I think Benthor might have overstayed his welcome. There's a red buff here. If he gets tagged by this slow, it's going to be very hard to run away from the Taric.
Oh, here comes RD. Flag and drag. The flash lands it. There's the stun. First blood for Condi.
And that was such a good experience play from Condi. He wrapped around the mid lane, did not go through the wolves. If you see where LGD actually placed their wards during their level 1 invade, they placed it towards the left of the Merc Wolves, thinking that if Condi would come back to this side, he would have to walk through. But Condi was well aware of that warding position. Great awareness from Condi to find that first blood.
Just shows the experience he has. You know, he's been playing in the LPL so long, so many years of working on this jungle pathing. He is reading Benthor like a book right now, but this time he's the one that might be caught out in the jungle.
Yeah, he should still have the EQ to run away if things really get hairy, and like I was
Wow.
talking about.
Oh, the flash in, that's really aggressive. Ignite blown as well from Mole. He's really looking for this kill, but instead he might be the one in trouble.
Yeah, that was very ambitious from Mole, but you could see he was at least 2 auto attacks away from finishing the kill onto Condi. So it doesn't actually work out for him, and Condi is able to walk out.
He's blown both summoners for that too, so I really don't think that was worth it from him. Also stalls a little bit out for the V5 bot lane, so we're having a lot of fun here in the first game with both of these teams.
I love this new Colonel feature right here. He actually predicts a team's win rate based on the game time. So you can see LGD have a strong spike earlier on, have a weaker spike early on, only projected with a 42% win rate if the game finishes at 20 minutes. But later, they have all the trump cards on their hand. 53% goes up about 10 percentage point for them. LGD clearly with the better scaling composition.
I just have to say, though, look at Condi. Every single time that Ben4 has gone somewhere that Condi could possibly have eyes on, he's been there, bar none. But Mole taking a ton of damage underneath this mid lane tower. He's not having a great time, Clement. He had to blow both those summoners in that gank, got nothing for it, and then Yuuki just forces him out under tower with a level 4 Azir.
Yeah, and you have to say that Zoe is still a champion that does need a little bit of snowball to get going, so does not really bode well for V5 earlier on. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Olaf. He's actually been the most dominant jungler that we've seen so far. There hasn't been a lot of games, but I think we have a very clear-cut reason. The scuttle now spawns at 3 minutes and 15 seconds, and it does favor junglers that prefer to farm their first rotation of camps. Now, Olaf himself didn't receive any buffs. He's not changed, but all the other junglers now have to play his game. Level 2 ganking is far more riskier these days. You don't have that scuttle to equalize. The enemy is going to walk straight into your own jungle. So what we've seen is that these level 3 ganking junglers are now a lot better. Tempo game is now a lot more important in terms of jungle clearing.
Well, we've been focusing a lot on the jungle, but take a look at the bottom lane. This is absolutely insane here from the Victory 5 bot lane. 41 CS to 29. It's a 10 CS lead at 5 minutes, Clement.
I just don't know what Taric is here for. Taric is such a rare support. We just don't see him that much. We saw him quite a bit when Taric Master E was still a thing and played in the LPL, but afterwards it's been Sona Taric. He's pretty much the cheese master, I would say, of all picks. The only thought process I think is behind this Taric is that he's going to be here for giving LGD a way out of team fights where they're hard engaged upon. And if you look at the Nautilus, his ultimate is very apparent. It is telegraphed, and maybe the Taric will be able to defend against that.
Condi once again going to be there when Ben4 gets there, but the slows not going to be enough to force him off, so Condi just going to back in that bush. And I don't know, this draft from LGD kind of just reminds me of what I would do when I was first learning about pick bans. I'm like, I want late game. Give me everything late game. I don't need an early game. Let's go late game support. Taric, let's go for it. Late game 80 carry. Kaisa, good. Just across the board. Give me something that can do well in the late game. And honestly, I thought they'd be getting punished a lot more for it.
I'll be honest, I think this is a great strategy against newer teams, unexperienced teams, and teams that will make mistakes early on. If you're playing a tempo game, if you have to close out early, the onus is on you to make all the moves. And frankly, LGD, this is a composition that they can get away with even if they make a lot of mistakes. And I think that's the reasoning why they're using this composition against V5.
Maybe some contention over the Scuttle Crab here. It's Ben4, Mole, both there in the area. Aliez coming in from the top lane. Not going to be a fight just yet, but they were thinking about it for a while.
Yeah, that was a hairy situation for LGD. If you look at their members, you only see the cleanse being brought onto Azir, standard pick against the Zoe. If anyone else was hit right there, it could have escalated into a potential fight. But right now, Yuuki has such good control over this mid lane. He's already 10 CS up, and Mole's going to have to find it quite difficult to actually start roaming and getting his kills. I just don't see him finding them in the mid lane.
Meanwhile, in the top lane, it looks like Aliez is doing a great job. Just going to pop the Chaos Storm, zone the V5 top laner out of lane. But he doesn't have a CS lead just yet, so Aliez is doing actually pretty well up here.
Yep. Short introduction to Aliez. He was the top laner on the Academy Team 87, and he actually played a lot of Swain. He was actually known for these unorthodox mage picks quite earlier on in his career, so now we see him on the Neeko, which is something that should be quite comfortable for him.
Ben4 looking for the gank. Aliez might be in trouble. The Pop Blossom not going to land. Aliez with a good flash away, but now he's getting chased down by the Olaf. 1, 2, there he goes. Another kill for Ben4, 1-1-0 now on the Olaf.
I love what Aliez did there. Q flash to ensure that Aliez was going to take the initial crowd control and stay in place. There was no risk taken right there, just a solidly executed kill.
Condi now going to try and sneak away the dragon. There is a ward on it though, so there's only how sneaky you can be. but it doesn't look like there's going to be much contention here. Mole just going to spot it out, but when you have the bot lane from LGD here as well, it is so much harder to contest.
Yeah, very important to secure those early objectives. They don't really want V5 to get this and start accelerating the pace. However, if you look at the gold leads, LGD actually coming out quite ahead. I think most of it still comes down to that mid lane. Those early summoners being blown from Mole really caused him to play very cautious. Pre-6, he doesn't really have any ways to get away from anything. So he had to cede a lot of map pressure for him. And that's just not what you want to see from a Zoe. This blue buff should have been a big point of contention from V5. They should have had the priority in the mid lane, should have had the priority in the bot lane. None of that came to fruition.
But now Yuuki's just going to have free reign in the mid lane now that he has the mana sustain to keep going. 84 CS to 69, but there comes Condi. He's looking for the flag and drag. He finds it, but Mole gets a huge chunk onto Yuuki. They need to be careful in this 2v2, and it looks like Yuuki thought better of it.
Now, that was kind of a weird engage from Condi's part. He didn't have priority in any of his lanes. Still wanted to maybe scare away Ben 4, but his mid laner does pay the price.
Perhaps feeling a little bit overconfident since the game's been going so well for the team so far, but LGD just going to reset now, and Yuuki with this massive CS lead. I want to see Azir. I want to see it doing well, and honestly, I'm kind of happy it's looking like we're going to get that, Clement.
Now, I love what LGD are doing. We said about their win conditions. There used to be more of a skirmish-oriented team. You had PYL roaming the map, trying to find kills everywhere, and dying a lot himself. And LGD, they also had Aliez on the Kennen, trying to pick up those skirmishes and get that multi-man stun. But this LGD, a lot more control being displayed on their part. They've already taken the Drake. Now they're doing what is a very common move. We've seen that MSI so many times before. You proactively swap toward the top side, look at the top lane. It's pushing in. They're going to have priority in that lane. And if this goes well, they could potentially snowball away to Herald.
Clean macro here from LGD, but update on the items there. It will be Kramer going for the Storm Razor first instead of the Muromana as we had suspected during the draft. But you know what? Still a viable option. We've seen even Blade of the Ruin King starts. Kai'Sa has some of the most free itemization choices in the AD carry position.
Ooh, now this is an interesting bait being set up by LGD. They're not spotted. V5 don't know that they're in this brush right here. Will they take the fight?
Half health on the Herald. RD, I don't know if he sees this. He's going to get tagged by the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, so they know people are here now. But it's a 3 versus 4 in favor of Victory 5, so I don't suspect they'll go for it. It is secured by Ben 4, but here comes the Taric ult. It's down. They have time to do the damage, but they're just going to use it to dip out instead. Bottom lane of LGD should be safe, but Victory 5 are still here on the chase. Heal blown. They really want this. Sleepy Trouble Bubble going to go wide, though, and Kramer and RD just going to walk away.
I have to say, V5 actually countered this rotation from LGD quite well. They had their top laner moving towards the bot side and swapping on the same wave that LGD did. And they also just had Olaf there earlier. If you looked at the fight, Azir did not leave his lane. Yuuki had free roam towards the Herald, and they were able to take that numbers advantage and transfer it into this buff.
Good way for Victory 5 to get themselves back in the game. LGD so far has been calling the shots, calling the plays, but with that, they bring it back to gold even. Yes, they're down a Mountain Dragon, but they're up a Rift Herald. Now the question is, what can they get done with it? Looks like they're going to be going for the top lane tower.
And there's no wave clear that LGD can form that will stop this. This is a very strong play, and unfortunately for LGD, they kind of miscalculated. V5 read the play correctly as well, and there's no help here. Jarvan is not on this side of the map. They're going to have to give this up.
Already a 2-turret planing's taken, but maybe if they can get the positioning on the Herald, they might stop it in the time being. Looks like they will. So just a few turret platings taken, and honestly, a little bit of a disappointing Rift Herald.
Yep, still enough gold into their pocket. They're not going to force the issue with Azir roaming up. But that was still a, I would say, quite a good trade for V5 overall. I felt like their macro read was on point to counteract all of that. Just taking a look at the items, if you're going to go for the what is it called? Storm Razors? Yeah, Storm Razors first. It actually still gives you a faster path to getting double evolves compared to the Mana Mune. So we've actually been watching Uzi stream a lot, and he still prefers the Storm Razors first. He wants to get those double evolves rather than just getting the pure AD faster. And I think that's an okay build as well. You get a better power spike at that 2-item point.
And Kramer will be very happy to get there. Of course, when you get the recurve bow and the pickaxe, that's when you get your double evolve. Of course, you need the berserker greaves as well, but that's just the default at this point for the AD carries. So now Victory 5 roaming around this bottom side of the map. Finally, we might see a little bit of contention around this blue buff. Still not spawning yet, but they're setting up for when it does.
Yep, and V5 have a composition that's very strong when they catch single targets. The entire team can collapse and use that single target crowd control from Nautilus to lock targets down. So LGD need to be careful. I don't think they can venture into the river going from two flanks at the same time. I think they need to be groups to take this.
They're going to need to group up pretty soon. The Infernal, of course, very important. However, Victory 5 just deciding to clear out the waves. They want to get wave control and try and force his objective, but this does give LGD a lot of time to clear out the objective and maybe even take it for themselves.
Yep, Aliez is nowhere to be seen. He does have a good teleport spot, but he's not using it. There we go.
There's the teleport.
Oh!
It's stolen away by Y4, and now the team fight to follow LGD. Artie's ultimate only lands on it to the Pop Blossom. So much damage. LGD getting blown up by Victory 5, and Condi now the one getting chased down, cannot get the flag and the drag in time, and Mole is running down Kramer, and RD a flash away secures the health of the AD carry. But the Infernal Drake goes over to Victory 5.
LGD absolutely used everything just to lock down on that Kramer, on that Y4 kill, but he was able to flash over the wall, keep himself alive. Very good footwork at the start of that, and then they finish up the back line. LGD chased a bit too much, and that was such a good play from Y4, holding down the fort and saying, hey, you know what? We own the early game.
And if you look at it now, I mean, Victory 5 have brought this game back to a pretty decent lead. 3,000 gold, they've got the new tower. But let's take a look at that fight one more time.
This was so insane. Just as the smite goes down, the boomerang actually does catch him. He still gets knocked up by the EQ combo, but has enough movement speed to walk around over the wall. Yuuki, unfortunately, with flash in hand, does not see the Neeko coming in and dies instantly to the damage. Cataclysm also wasn't used before Condi fell down, so a great flank from Aliez and a great footwork display from Y4 to save that team fight for V5.
I was really happy with LGD's performance up to this point, but it's what we were talking about earlier, right? They look fine until they don't. It's like Coast, but instead of with losing, it's just with some weird mistakes.
Just taking a look at the turret platings being taken right here. 2-0, all of it centered onto Y4. He should be looking at the second item right now. First one, Essence Reaver, and going to go for the IE next.
Run, Forrest, run! He's going to get chased down. Ben 4 has the Ragnarok popped. He might just be able to get out of there with pure move speed, and he dies. This game is getting a little bit ridiculous, Clement.
No harm, no foul. LGD trying to find a pick right here. There's nothing much for Azir to do right now. Without his tower, doesn't really have priority, so they're going to have to look for riskier options to bring themselves back into the game. And unfortunately for them, it's also a next Infernal Dragon. Oof, LGD might be forced to fight when they don't really want to.
This is really unfortunate for them because Victory 5 has started pulling themselves back into it in a big way. You look at the bottom lane. Earlier, that CS lead was only 10, but look at it now. Almost a 40 CS lead on Y4. He's got the Essence Reaver already completed, working on a second item now. He's getting really dangerous.
Just taking a look at the items right here, I don't think LGD sitting on most of their first items has enough damage to dissuade V5. They don't have a great front line. They're going to have to use the ultimates from Jarvan and Taric to actually keep themselves alive right here. And this is a composition where LGD might have a chance if the enemy team walks into them, but I don't see them taking a fight going forward. I don't think this is a team composition that does very well on the aggressive side. So during the next Infernal Drake, if they want to contest, and I feel like they have to, they're going to have to set up that sector of the map very correctly, and you can also see the pings coming down right now.
This was the danger of drafting a full-scaling composition like this. Yes, it'll do great if you get into the late game with an advantage or even. But if you start falling behind in the early to mid game, this early pressure composition from Victory 5 will start running away with the game. They've gotten their third outer tower, so that's all of the outer towers are gone now for LGD, which gives them so much freedom to move around the map for Victory 5. And LGD are just going to be playing on the back foot, not only in team fights, but now in macro as well.
Still a long ways for them to go. Pre-20 minute right here, but Condi's going to get spotted out, and I don't think Azir is actually close enough to help this.
This time, Mole's going to have no problems trying to get that kill. That's the stopwatch blown by Condi, but Mole still looking for it. Forces the flash as well. So Mole won't get the kill, but this time all he has to burn is the Ignite. Gets the flash and a ton of health away from Condi.
Yeah, that just means that Condi can't really do his Son of Baron play right here. Not really a chance for him to steal the Infernal Drake without his flash. So that was quite a significant play that happened. Not worth it for the Raptors.
Even not with the flash, you look at the levels here. Condi only just hit 10, and Ben 4 was 11 before. That was a 2-level deficit there for the LGD jungler. So things are looking a little bit dire, Clement.
And this timing works out for V5 quite well. Aliez is going to be able to set up another teleport flank. Taking a look at the wards, we still have a control ward in LGD's inner try. So they should pay good attention to that, try to sweep that one out, or we could just see the next Dragon fight repeating the same results.
Sleepy Trouble Bubble already blown. Ben 4 looking for an engage perhaps, but now LGD, this is the composition, the positioning they were waiting for. Now Victory 5 have to run into them like you were saying. And it looks like half health, but Sleepy Trouble Bubble down onto RT.
Oh.
RT gets
Where did
blown
he go?
up before he can ult. The Baron gets taken away by the Olaf. Victory 5 run away with the fight. There goes Kramer. The double kill so far from Mole. Can he get more? Yuuki on the back line. That makes it the triple kill. The Pop Blossom going to go golden there, but it won't save him. Ben 4 trying to chase down Condi. It doesn't matter. One member remaining for LGD. Victory 5 take the Dragon. They take the fight 4-0, and Baron is up in 6 seconds, Clement.
That was such a lucky draw from Mole. Now, he did land his full combo, but that wouldn't have killed RD right on the spot. He actually got a Proto Bell proc right there as well. That was picked up from a minion wave, and it gave him enough burst damage. Now that's just genius from Mole, knowing with that item pickup, he would be able to solo down RD before there was any action. RD thought he was fine. He didn't even use his exhaust right there. He was like, you know what? I should be alive, and uh-oh, Proto Bell, and he dies.
That's the problem, though. You got to respect this Zoe. Look at her in this fight. She just absolutely pops off.
You know, that's luck, but it's so crucial for Mole to actually recognize the situation and the damage he has to finish up that play, and that's the second Infernal Dragon. That's just going to, look, it doesn't even matter about the scaling at this point. V5 are going to be able to fight on LGD's timing no matter what. Great triple kill from Mo. He takes himself back into the game.
Now, Victory 5 with the Baron, the double Infernal in hand. They are starting to run away with this game, and Clement, this is not what I was expecting coming into game number 1 of this series at all.
It definitely wasn't, but I told you, if there's one player I'm looking at, Mole is the one. I felt like his tenure at BLG was cut a little bit short. We actually saw him last split playing for EDG in the top lane position, and he's found another snipe. A no-scope in the mid lane, and down goes Yuuki.
Now, Aliez going to be down there in the bottom lane, but that's not where you want to pay attention. Mole is the man to follow here. 5-0-3 on this Zoe. So much poke damage, so much potential for kills. The Chaos Storm going to be used there just for wave clear, but it's a Baron wave. You don't do a whole lot of damage, and they're just going to face tank the entire tower.
There's nothing LGD can do right now. If you look at Kramer's position, he's the main wave clear on this team. Yuuki is dead. No response to them whatsoever, and just looking at the compositions, I don't think LGD can reach that 30-minute mark. It's still 8 minutes away. They're facing double Infernals. They don't have the damage. They don't have the front line to fight anymore.
Let's take a look at that pick in the mid lane once again. Yuuki, how the hell does he die here?
What?
What?
What? He didn't even land the Sleepy Trouble
Nani?
Bubble.
All right.
Just Ludens and Double Pen. That's all I need.
And 10 stacks of Dark Seal. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when you let a Zoe get fed out of their mind.
Okay.
Neat.
I thought you were at least supposed to land the bubble, you know,
No,
for that
man.
to happen.
You just need the paddle star. It's fine.
Okay.
He's just playing ping pong at this point. It's all about paddles right into the enemy's face. I'm not sure that's how ping pong's played, but I think I got the essence of it.
Really unexpected, and you have to say there's no way that LGD is going to be able to hold on to their base after that one. Your main wave clear option, Yuuki, still needs to walk up and build his Shurima towers. Not going to really happen. And Baron power play, 3,000 gold already to V5.
They might need one of those sponsored beers after this game, Clement, because LGD, after a decent early game, not having a great time to follow it up. And now Victory 5 just pounding on the base turrets now. Their 7th tower of the game, double Infernal, almost a 10k gold lead. How did this go so wrong for LGD?
I think it just has to come down to those Drake fights. Both of those ones went over to V5, and in all of them, there were triple kills handed over. So just accelerated their game so much. LGD were in position both times. They actually made the correct macro plays, but just in terms of the individual players, V5 outplayed the heck out of LGD. The first Drake steal coming in from Y4 and just running the entire team around the loop. And then you have the triple coming in from Mole. Those were just, they just hurt way too much.
I want to point this on to a single member from LGD, but I feel like I can. At this point, it's a bit of a team failing, and this is so promising from Victory 5. Because these are fairly untested rookies. Like you said, they were 15th in the LDL. They're bringing 3 members up to the LPL. You do not expect their first game to be going this well, but it feels like the leadership and veteranship of Ben4 and Y4 has been enough to tame the rookies a little bit. And a triple Infernal at this point, Clement, this is just rubbing salt into the wound.
Yeah, and sometimes all it takes is actually just chemistry from a team. V5 the last time around, I don't think he's going to get away from this
What?
one.
The Cosmic Radiance didn't save him.
Yeah, that was very well timed by Yuuki, by Mole right there, and he's going to finish up with this kill onto Aliez as well.
Kramer looking for it. He can't find anything to ignite. There comes the follow-up damage. The double kill on the front line from Y4. Victory 5 just running away, trying to get all 5 members of LGD down, but they don't have to at this point. Just Yuuki left to defend the first next target low. They caught him. He's down. There's the full ace. Victory 5 looking to live up to their name here in their first game of the summer split of 2019, taking down LGD in a short 25 minutes.
That was a stunning game, and I think there's a lot of things that I might have predicted wrong for this V5 squad. I think chemistry is a big reason why they're playing so well right here. If you think about Spring Split, V5 are a completely new squadron. They had a lot of pieces coming in from LGD itself. They had a lot of different members, so it was a team that needed to gel, but this time around, watching them play, I feel like this is a team that has come in with built-in synergy. They've made good use of the MSI break that they had, and they're looking strong.
Victory 5, this is not what I expected to see from them. When we talked about it a little bit, our expectations for this team, just don't be last.
Yes.
I feel like they're doing better than that right now, and I know that's a low expectation to just not be last, but considering their last split, honestly, I feel like that was a fair one. This new team seems to be living up to that and potentially more. I know it's just game 1.
Yep, the most important thing for me is Mole finally getting a second chance. I felt like BLG, the disvolvement of that team didn't really have much to do. He lost his position because they were bringing Kuro and ADD onto the squad, so you know they didn't really have need of his service anymore. But he was actually quite a decent mid laner when he did play. He took the position from Athena essentially and was a good mid lane, starting mid laner in the LPL. So that's just great to see him finally getting that position back. And you can see in that game at the end of it, he wasn't even swinging his paddle stars. He was like, man, I don't even need the distance. I'm going to kill you point blank.
At a certain point, it's just so hard to come back from that Zoe play. And I think the big problem for them was that first Rift Herald fight, because LGD were doing so well, but then the rotation just didn't come out from them.
Yep.
And Victory 5 took the initiative. They went for the Rift Herald first and won the fight afterwards.
Yeah, if you look at this play, the Rift Herald got a lot of that mid lane tower. So what that happened is once they started the Infernal Drake and won that fight, it was so easy to then snowball. And then Yuuki's Azir didn't have anywhere to go. He was stuck mid lane. He was just wave clearing. And Yuuki had the entire run of the map. So that's just the problem when you want to run a triple scaling composition and you can't hold down those early objectives. Triple Infernal, I've got to say, unlucky day for LGD. That's the Fire Dragon taking his revenge for LGD taking him off the logo, basically.
What do you want to see from LGD in this next game for them to try and bring it back a little bit?
I would say I want to see Yuuki play a more aggressive mid laner. And this is what he actually made his name out of. He was an Aurelia player, he was a Talon player, and I think those aggressive picks actually suits LGD better because his synergy with Condi was looking upwards during the later half of the split. He was a great Zoe and Lissandra player in those last 5 series, which they took 4 of. So I want to see him have more impact in the early game. Yuuki, from LG's perspective, is still the hope of the future for them. You know, Kramer's their best performing player, but if you look at the age difference, Yuuki is still the one that's going to carry LGD in the future, and I think they need to have more input for him in the early game.
Let's hope we can see that, or will it be good night for LGD as Victory 5 have the potential to take the 2-0 in the next game? We're going to find out in just a few minutes.